Welcome back to another episode of Interjections. Inter back in the victory column after a 1-0 win over Venezia, but don't you worry, we'll find something else to have beef about. I'm your host, Andrew. Irfan and Jay with me, and then back, no longer embarrassed by the club, no longer shameless in defeat. We've had Mikko return. Mikko, welcome back.
Thank you, and thanks to Sterling for chipping in. And yeah, I survived Supercoppa meltdown and especially the episode after that. So happy to be back to contribute.
I'm sure you loved our hard-hitting analysis and you agreed with every point we made.
Exactly.
Irfan, what's up?
Nothing. You guys tell me. I mean, we'll discuss, but there was at least a couple of really good performances that we should discuss. So I'm really excited to get into that, but otherwise doing well.
Jay, with Milan back dropping points again, I'm just curious what shameless narrative you're going to push this episode.
I was thinking something about immigrants, maybe. Otherwise, look, the night is darkest before the dawn. I know minus 15 looks insurmountable, but crazy things have happened, all right?
You tend to start picking up habits from people you hang out with, and I have noticed I now use Jay's look before continuing to make a point. I've picked that up over the course of the past 2 years, so thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So look, I can't sit here and wax poetic about yesterday's performance because it was not a thing of beauty. The only appropriate way to frame yesterday's win over Venezia is with a heavy dose of perspective. The fact is, four teams went to Saudi Arabia for the Supercoppa, and Inter is the only one that came back to Italy and won their match. Atalanta, Juve, Milan all had ugly draws this weekend. And even though our performance was gritty and at times painful, we got the full 3 points in an away fixture. We were playing the 19th ranked club in the league. This is, Venezia is an obvious relegation candidate. They're most certain to go down. But even if you want to play devil's advocate and say, hey, we beat the worst team of the 4 opponents who came back to Italy from the Supercoppa, well, Milan drew Cagliari, who are in 18th place on the table, and they drew them at home. So the quality of the opponent didn't matter. This was a tough spot with all this travel, these extra matches. We were put in a difficult position, but we held Venezia to less than 0.5 XG. We managed to produce just enough to get the 3 points, and overall, it has to be a job well done, considering the difficult circumstances. And speaking of perspective and difficult circumstances, you have to think about what this lineup was. We had no Hakan, no thuram, no Mkhitaryan, no DeMarco for the vast majority of the match. It was a team of pretty much complete reserves, complete backup players. We even let Arnautovic try playing football for some reason. And we played like a disjointed unit of backups. I mean, there was a point during the match where DeMarco was playing left center midfield, which was hilarious, just pointing out how little Inzaghi values youth. Let's just throw on DeMarco as the left midfielder. But regardless, though, that's my takeaway from the match. One is that, hey, we got the 3 points when we were in a difficult situation, and no one's going to care about how we got the 3 points at the end of the season. This was a must-win with Napoli continuing their strong form. It was great to get thuram and Pavard and some of these other guys back from injury, especially now that Bisek is injured and we're going to need Pavard going forward. So we need our best players back on the pitch, so it was nice to get some reinforcements back. And we're really grooving in the league right now. We keep winning league games. We keep winning league games with clean sheets, and it's really clear at this point it is a 2-horse race for the Scudetto between us and Napoli. You can try and talk yourself backwards into one of these other teams being a candidate for the Scudetto, but at the end of the day, it's us, it's Napoli, and everyone else is clearly a tier below. So, Mikko, what do you think of the gutty, cagey 1-0 win over Venezia?
Yeah. It was a cage. It was gritty, and yeah, I think we could have scored a few more goals. I think the stats or the XG, it will tell that we maybe should have scored another one. There was few excellent chances for Frattesi. I think even Taremi had few nice chances, but he couldn't convert. He couldn't even get them on target, and then when we don't score, it becomes a bit dangerous at that point. Even if we didn't concede too much, there was this one Busio shot to the post, and then right in the end there was uh, Pohjanpalo. Pohjanpalo had a decent chance, but shot right at Sommer. But in general, I would say on like a stats perspective, it was this like typical you go on the away game, you score this one goal, and then you like play well enough not to concede, and that's what we did. But you know it at times it looked a bit dangerous. The Busio chance, it wasn't like a great chance or anything. He just had a great shot there more than the chance itself. But yeah, the game wasn't great, but I would say that I was pretty happy in a sense that we indeed started with quite a few bench players there. Okay, we had Barella, Lautaro, we had Bastoni, De Vrij, uh, but the others were basically bench players. So okay, Dumfries started as well. But there was like 5 bench players who played like at least 1 hour, few of them more. So I was fairly happy we managed to. Well, of course I'm happy we managed to pull off a 3 point game, but yeah. Somehow this Venezia match is, I don't know what is it. The home match was like, I don't know, almost the same. Maybe we created a bit more there, but still it was a bit hard, and we won that as well, like just 1-0. So I don't know what's so difficult against Venezia. Maybe the goalkeeper Stankovic made a few nice saves there, like in the our home match and in this match as well. So maybe he's the factor for Venezia, at least against us. I don't know. He has some extra motivation to prove himself there or something.
Yeah, Stankovic was great yesterday. You could probably argue he was man of the match, even though he was on the losing team. We'll get into it. I think there's a good conversation to have there about the Martinez signing in the grand scheme of things with Stankovic still in the picture. Irfan, what do you think of the match?
Well, I think a lot of what you guys said is true. It was a gritty performance. Um, Even with that, I think there were some chances that we wasted that we should have put away.
Ooh, brother, can you
Um,
hear that? Can you hear that smug tone right off the bat? Like the moment.
Look,
He's
let me
ready to
cook.
jump and explain how we found asllani's, the
Just
level he can play at.
let me cook. All right.
I'm gonna let you finish. I'm gonna let you finish.
Yeah.
In the
Let me
immortal words of
finish.
Kanye West.
In the words of Ye. Before I get to the obvious, what I'm going to talk about, what Miko you were saying about, Venezia. I think it's this Di Francesco. Like we remember last year the match that we were at against Frosinone. Like we had that amazing goal by DeMarco, but that match I think ended 1-0. It's always a slog against him. The team comes out pretty organized, I think. So, part of it I think is just him managing whatever he has fairly well. Not that I rate him immensely as a manager, but I do feel like he can give us a hard time at times. And I think Venezia match yesterday was similar to that. But no, I think given that every team struggled after coming back from some worthless tournament in Saudi Arabia, and the fact that we had a pretty heavy rotation forced on us, I think the result was really good. I mean, to me, the most impressive thing was that we were able to keep a clean sheet. Not that Venezia is some super high powered offense, but I think we've been focused really well in the league. I feel like the team is extra focused in the league versus some of these other matches we play. And so it was nice to have a narrow lead and then retain it, even though, we did, I think, leave it pretty late and we were pretty sloppy down the stretch. And you could definitely tell that Venezia was starting to kind of turn a corner and be a lot more aggressive. So it was good that we were able to hold. As for the goal, look, I know everyone's going to hate on asllani and not try to overdo anything, but he was rightly criticized immensely, not just by the interjections crowd and the people we know who watch Inter, but also just general media, right? Like there was numerous articles about how bad he was in that Supercoppa match against Milan. So, you know, Inzaghi's hand was a little forced with injuries, but the fact that he came out, the next week and played, I think, really, really well, including setting up the goal, which kind of came out of nothing. I mean, that long ball that he had to Lautaro, should have been an assist. But Lautaro, to his credit, did a good job at least getting the ball on target. And then it was put away by Darmian. But, asllani, I thought, played well. The midfield didn't seem like it was being overrun or anything like that. And again, Venezia is not super high quality opposition, but the narrative around asllani by some who are extreme seem to be that like the guy can't and should not play even a minute. And when he's on the pitch, our midfield becomes a black hole, and he's like the worst player in Serie A and all this other sort of stuff. And it's like, this is nonsense, guys. Like the guy is clearly not at Hakan level, but it's not that you can't put him out there against 10 or so, maybe even 15 of the Serie A teams that we play, and he can't give in a good performance and play well. So I was glad that he played well. I'm glad he bounced back and he had some confidence. And Inzaghi's hand, I think, was forced, but still, I think it was a good outing by him that should, hopefully detract some of the hate that he's been getting.
Yep, we found the quality team he's able to excel against, which is relegation sides. So Jay, I'll turn it over to you.
Milan could probably have used him in their match yesterday. Just saying.
Speaking of Milan, would you guys give me a show of hands? Not that I can see you, but would you guys have traded the 2 points for a Supercoppa win?
My knee-jerk reaction is I'd prefer the 2 points.
Same here.
Yeah, no way. I'm taking the Supercoppa.
Really? It's a trophy, a highly prestigious piece of silverware.
Yep, and it does wonders for your form, as you can tell.
Important derby as well to get one over your rivals, and
that is fair.
Yeah, the derby Scudetto. That's an important trophy as well.
If we don't win the Scudetto by the end of the season, I hope my answer will change to yes. But if we go for it and win the Scudetto, I'd rather the points leading up to that ultimate goal. Like if you were to rank your priorities this season, like what are your priorities?
Exactly. Yeah,
I would say, based on Inzaghi's lineup choices, Supercoppa, then Coppa. He goes for the most attainable trophy first, doesn't he? Isn't that always his highest priority because he wants silverware?
Yeah, that seems to be the case.
So you could say you could actually say we missed on our highest priority, and you could objectively say that Champions League is our lowest priority because he keeps putting out fucking dog shit sides.
You could say that. Don't know how objective that is, but you could say it.
One could argue. Look, I don't know how I would answer that question myself because, as I mentioned, there was silverware on the line, and there was also the chance at redemption against Milan on the line, and that would have kind of set us up nicely for the upcoming derby in just 2.5 weeks. And also, we talked about this last week about the whole terrifying resurgence of Milan and how we could have dealt them a bit of a psychological blow or kind of put them back in their place with a commanding win in the Supercoppa. So those still hurt a little bit, or those things still annoy me. So I'm not entirely sure if I would take the 2 point gap over the Supercoppa, but whatever. It's not like I have a choice right now. In any instance, obviously, it turned out to be a really good weekend for us. First and foremost, Arsenal lost, and AFTV is back to where it should be with screaming, ranting Arsenal fans. It feels like, as they say, nature is healing. And then, of course, the local rivals, minus Napoli, all drop points. So very, very good weekend for us. And I keep saying this, but give a fuck about Napoli. I just don't think they have the quality. If Napoli really do push us to the end, or if Napoli somehow do win the title, I'll give Conte massive, massive props because yes, he's a flat track bully. He is a one game a week type manager. Sucks in Europe, as we all know, and he's kind of destroying, or is involved with destroying, this beautiful title-winning Napoli team in order to create some unholy Scudetto chasing beast filled with horrendous players from England like Lukaku. But look, I just don't think the players are comparable, right? And I don't think the play style is really comparable either. I think we have Napoli beat on both counts, and therefore it's a shame that we didn't actually beat them on the field where it matters most. And I'll be hoping that we can kind of pull it out next time we meet. But I don't think Napoli are gonna. Sorry, I don't think are as dangerous as people say. Despite obviously they're doing well picking up points. You saw the way Atalanta dismantled them. I think they struggle against teams who actually play good football. So that's that. But I guess about our game specifically, what can I say? Asllani had some good moments, or he had arguably one of the best moments in the game with that nice forward ball to Lautaro. I had a few kind of, I don't know. You saw the best and worst of Asllani. I feel you saw the nice long vertical ball, which obviously played a massive role, our goal, and then at the same time you saw him kind of picking up a stupid yellow after what was like the third or fourth time he kind of put himself in a compromising position where the ref was, taking a long hard look at him. I feel he gets a absurd amount of yellows for being, a backup player essentially, and most of those yellows are for kind of shit fouls or for just bad tackles that he doesn't really have a chance of winning. So yeah, as mentioned, the best and worst of Asllani in one game. But look, overall, I'll tip the balance to the positive because he did contribute to the one and only goal of the game. And I just want to touch on what Andrew mentioned about the quality of the game itself being quite low. It wasn't a boring game, but it wasn't a great game either. And, I wasn't happy that we allowed that shot for Buzio that hit the post. That was quite late in the game. And then, as Mikko mentioned, there was a chance. I went back and actually watched the mini match or the extended highlights and all that. And we let Poyampalo have a great chance, and literally in the 91st minute, you really can't do that. You know what I mean? We can't be. Oh, I felt like we got away with letting them have these chances. Maybe in another game they score and they pull us back to a 1-1, and we kind of give up another late goal. But as Andrew mentioned, we're talking about the 19th place side in the league, so maybe they just didn't have the quality to put the ball in the net, and maybe a better side would have. So we need to stay switched on.
I quickly comment on that Pohjanpalo chance. Yeah, I remember that in the stats it was only like 0.07, like not a big chance, but still, I remember it was like a long vertical ball to the box, and somehow there was like 2 our guys and 1 Venezia guy, if I remember.
Yeah, he won the
and
knockdown.
They were all going to the same ball, and somehow the Venezia guy won it and like headed it right back to Pohjanpalo on the edge of the box.
Exactly. He wasn't even that far he wasn't even that far away from goal. So the fact that he had time and space to get to the layoff quickly and take a powerful shot at goal, which thankfully went straight to Sommer. Thankfully went straight down the goalkeeper's throat. The Lautaro special. So it was a little bit fortuitous that we didn't have to, or that we weren't put under more pressure. But all in all, sometimes you get the roll of the dice, and I definitely felt we deserved to win the game on the balance of things. As mentioned, Frattesi had some great chances. big shout out to my boy Carlos for picking him out with that beautiful chipped pass over the top to pick out Frattesi's run. Frattesi's touch was not great, which is why he kind of had to poke the ball at Stankovic instead of, getting a better shot off. But regardless, I still think he should have scored. And there was another chance as well, wasn't there, where he could have.
Yeah, it
gotten
was. It was maybe even better one, but he
he didn't get the
maybe he
shot
was a
off
bit
because it
yeah
closed
maybe
down
so
or something.
yeah a bit slow with that, so it got blocked. That was a great play as well. The Dumfries.
Taremi was
Or was it
hilarious.
Thuram?
No, it was, I think it was Frattesi.
Yeah. I mean the pass it Frattesi to have the shot there, but yeah. But
It might have been
Taremi.
Lautaro. I can't remember.
Okay.
Look, Taremi was hilarious. He just kept like wildly slicing the ball all over the place. Like he kept
That
taking
was one of
these.
the worst shots I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, he kept kind of shooting, but then ending up sending it to the corner flag type thing.
Yeah, it was actually a pretty decent chance, but somehow he managed to to pull that kind of.
He did a lot of that. Look, at least it was funny. If that's all I ask for. If you're not going to play well, at least make it funny, right? And Adavic does neither. He's just kind of sad. So,
I want to comment on Taremi on a positive note because that's my brand. So I want to say that I don't think he was like utterly terrible in this match, because like he got the chances. He was at least there to shoot, because we've been talking before. It feels that he's been nowhere around when the ball comes into the box. But now he was at least there to take the shots. Now the next step is to like shoot on target and then maybe score some goals. He scored a nice goal on the Super Cup, but other than that, I think this was step to the right direction. But let's hope for better shots from now on. But and I think he was anyway more involved in the game, but also now he was there in the right areas to have the shots. So you gotta stay positive here and look the upside as well.
mate, I'll give you positive. Just to touch upon what Andrew said about Stankovic. Now, I feel he falls into the same kind of argument as someone like Belanova, which is why did we go out and buy a replacement when we have this guy? Even I will concede that, Belanova would not be the player he is right now had he stayed at Inter and just gotten bench minutes or Buchanan time. I like to think he would have got a bit more time than what Buchanan did. But obviously, not only the tactical system under Inzaghi, the tutelage, but also the game time has developed him significantly as a player. And the same applies with Stankovic, right? He's going to develop more playing every game for Venezia or at least most games for Venezia, than he will playing or just training under Inter. But I don't want to go over the whole Supercoppa thing, but the Supercoppa and Stankovic, I think these do provide some valuable lessons, and I think it's an apt time to talk about the lessons because we're midway through the January market, and things are starting to build up for other teams. Obviously, there's the Kvara move happening. It looks like maybe Rashford might be joining Milan, and we're linked with a few moves, and we'll talk about those momentarily. But I just really wanted to point out that the current state of things just really shine a light on how poor the summer mercato was. And I know that we had to essentially fund some moves or rather pay for loan moves that became permanent, like Carlos Augusto and Frattesi. But regardless, man, you have to look at, I guess, the money spent in terms of the new signings and the absolute zero impact that they've had on the season. We spent 20-something million on Palacios and Martinez, and they've played a combined 100 minutes. Martinez played one game. Palacios has probably played 10 minutes in 3 appearances or something. What I said at the beginning of the season was you can't go into the next season just wielding the same starting 11. It's just that's not something you do in football these days. Even teams like Real Madrid, who win the league and win the Champions League routinely, they are still improving on their squad every season. You go out and you improve it every single year. That's what Juventus did when they won the title 9 years in a row under Conte and Allegri. They had Higuain, and when he started getting a little bit old, they went out and signed Cristiano. Their defense was the best in the league, and what do? They go out and sign, at the time, the hottest defensive prospect in the world, which was De Ligt. So you got to always be looking to improve rather than just sustain. And, when you compare it to, again, just going to give the example here, but some of Milan's signings that I feel were dollar for dollar a lot more impactful than what we spent money on, like that 20 million that we spent on Palacios and Josep Martinez. That's what Milan paid for Pulisic, That's what Milan paid for Fofana. That's what Milan paid for Reinders. And any one of these players could have been the difference for us between not just winning the league, but giving us that spark, that solidity, that difference maker in going further in the Champions League as well. Because we've spoken about this numerous times, how the quality of the bench is just not as good as people make it out it is. I don't think this team is really, as deep as people say. We've got, players who are a year older, a year longer in the tooth compared to last season. De Vrij is now 33, right? Acerbi's 37 or something, and they're both turning 33 and 37 in February respectively, and Acerbi is permanently injured. De Vrij is, he still has some dangerous moments. There's a lot to do in terms of like squad revamping, and I don't think the money we spent was really smart. I still think in this kind of upcoming tough stretch, now that we're getting more injuries than we were this time last season and in the last 12 months, I think proper reinforcement in January, or starting the reinforcement approach in January, is going to be of paramount importance. We need to get like actually tangible, impactful signings in January, and not like, another fucking 3 million spent on some Topalovic or some Alex Perez type, Primavera prospects. We need players who are going to contribute actively to the first team, whether as a backup or rotation role. There are always opportunities out there, and we need to be proactive in doing it. So the kind of clearest example to me is this whole Frattesi situation. I mean, we spoke about it last week, but before I kind of pass it back to you guys, Morata was saying that he wants Frattesi to stay and is part of the project. And so I don't know if that's a change or a development in this whole Frattesi cycle or story, or if that's just, typical kind of Morata market posturing. But one of the touted moves we spoke about last week, which seems to not be possible, is Frattesi for Pellegrini, but now it seems to be Cristante and cash for Frattesi. Anyone taking that? Honestly, I'm kind of tempted, I feel like Cristante, as kind of clumsy as he can be, is a more defensively solid player. Certainly taller than asllani, certainly more kind of physically reliable than asllani. Isn't bullied off the ball so much. Like I said, a bit lumbersome for sure, bit of a mean player for sure, but I still think overall a better option to bring off the bench, especially when we're needing to hold on to a lead. So thoughts? Any takers?
Probably not. If it really depends on the cash Roma are sending over. If they're sending, we've talked about this. I don't think Frattesi is worth more than like 30 million. If you get 35 from Roma, that's a steal. So if they're sending you 30 million plus they're loaning you Cristante for the remainder of the season, I will take Cristante as just a body to get us through the rest of the season. But like, I don't want this guy on a permanent transfer for a few reasons. We've been doing this podcast for 2 Mercato cycles now. If you think back to 2023, that was a revolution summer. That was, you're bringing in thuram summer, Frattesi. It was a complete revamping of the squad. We saw a lot of the old guard leave, and we replaced it with these newer players. But a lot of the players we replaced them with were not particularly young. And it was a complete opposite end of the spectrum this past summer, when we did effectively nothing. We made a lucrative reserve keeper signing, and we loaned a center back we bought a center back who's going to leave on loan because he never plays. And on on both ends of the spectrum, we land on the same problem, which is that we have an old squad. Like Summer was a stopgap solution. We have so many stopgap solutions in the team. Like Acerbi, how long does he have left? Mkhitaryan, how long does he have left? And you just feel like at some point an investment is going to have to be made in younger, prime aged or near prime aged players. We can't keep this rolling forever. So when is that investment going to come? Is Oaktree going to make it? Is the next ownership group going to make it? I don't know what the answer is, but getting 30 or 35 million from Frattesi should go a long way towards helping finance one or two players who can hopefully come in, inject the squad with some youth, and give Osilio and Morata what they need to reshape the squad a little bit. Regarding Cristante specifically, he is a bit of a meme. Like it feels like a lazy comparison, but I also just think it's true, and this is why it's so popular on the internet right now. Cristante is a lot like Gagliardini. He is better than Gagliardini ever was, no doubt about that. I mean, Cristante is a level above in terms of quality, but he has an awful first touch. He's not super technically gifted, but he's a better defensive player. He has better positioning than a guy like Gagliardini ever had. So I was just bemoaning last week that I wish when we had a lead, we had a player we could bring off the bench who can step in defensively and help close out a game with some physicality. I think Cristante checks a lot of those boxes, but he's still not a player to want to purchase outright. He's still not a player to want around long term. Let's get him in here if needed to get us over the finish line for the Scudetto. But that's the extent of my interest in him.
Any comments, Irfan, on this thing?
Cristante, look, I think we do need to resolve something with Frattesi. Either start, giving him some more minutes, letting him play, or if he is that unsettled, then let him out. But honestly, I think a lot of this is kind of generated hype. It just doesn't make a lot of sense that we would sell him right now in January. It definitely doesn't make sense that Roma would be able to come up with the amount of money that we would need, even if it's just 30 million. It doesn't seem like that's the sort of transfer that Roma would be able to pull off. And then as far as the Cristante stuff goes, I'm kind of with Andrew. Like I don't rate him particularly highly, but if it's just a body that we need in the midfield without any option or obligation, and we have him for 6 months, then fine, I guess. But I really do feel like if we're gonna make any sort of moves in January, then they should be moves that help the club. And I'm not sure how, for the remaining months that are left in this season and looking forward into next season, I'm not sure how selling Frattesi for anything really, and then having a dry sort of loan for a short period of time of a player that isn't particularly good does anything to help us this year or on a go forward basis. So I'm extremely nervous about this coming summer as well, because I do think that some pretty worthwhile investment needs to be made into the club, and I'm kind of skeptical that Oaktree is going to do it. But I feel like if you were trying to do something like this, then having an asset like Frattesi is something that you should be able to leverage into either money that comes in that's used for other players, or that can help bring in another sort of talent that can help you on a go forward basis. And so I don't know. I feel like January transfers in general are pretty difficult. Seems like the market's not very well settled, and so you end up making rash decisions or making decisions that don't make up a lot of sense. And that's what I'm worried about with this move. I've talked a lot about what frustrates me about Frattesi, but I do think that if we find ourselves in important matches where we're drawn or we're behind, he is one of the few players that we can bring on that has sort of a knack for goal and can make some dangerous runs to give us a chance to either equalize or win a match. We don't have a lot of players like that. So I would be, I would hate to let him go without bringing something else in. And if that something is just Cristante, like that's pretty disappointing, I think.
Yeah,
As a
you
6 month loan option, though. That's what the rumors are saying. 6 months, just loan.
yeah, but I agree with what Irfan said that uh, if Frattesi leaves the team, we need to like the upside of like the downsides are there that we lose this kind of a offensive force. So what's the upside? What are we getting in return? If it's Cristante, it's like it feels like that will weaken the team, and that's what matters at this point. We are like in the middle of the season, so it weakens the team. And even if we get the money, we don't do anything with the money at this point because the market is dry. We can't buy Ricci from Torino. We can't buy Friendrup from Genoa. That they don't sell those players in the middle of the season because they are like key players for these teams. So I think that Marotta set the price at what was it, 45, 50 million, something like, which is like way over, just to make a point that okay, this guy is not moving unless you really overpay. And I think that's the correct move. And maybe it's like a message to Frattesi's agent as well, that okay, this is the price. You need to bring me an offer from the buying club that okay, they are ready to pay this much. Then you get this player in the middle of the season, but otherwise he stays here, because I think that Frattesi is not going to get sold because there's no one who's going to pay that money. And uh,
I
one
agree.
aspect is one aspect is that if Frattesi is so desperate to leave that he like he just wants out now, that makes it difficult for Inter. But somehow I feel that's not the case. He played yesterday, and it didn't seem like there were any issues or and anything like that. Marotta commented that he's part of the project. Inzaghi commented that Frattesi is part of the team and part of the project. So I hope he doesn't leave now, because we will get weaker if we sell him now, since we can't replace him properly. But next summer I almost like hope that we sell him to kind of reallocate the resources we have in him to a player which can be used better. But now I don't want to see him go.
All this brings up a really terrible conversation, but it's a unavoidable conversation because we have to ask, even if we sell Frattesi for whatever X amount, how much of that amount will Oaktree allow us to reinvest? We don't want to get fucked over selling Frattesi for, let's say, 30 to 40 million. We all agree that he is a really decent offensive weapon, and maybe his functionality is limited, maybe his usability is limited to certain situations. But I almost said circumcision. In any instance, losing a player like that and then just buying some like $7 million nobody is not the way to do it either. I spoke about like Milan buying Pulisic or Reinders or Fofana for 20 million euros or roughly thereabouts each, and all of them delivering really good impact. And the last thing I want to see is us sell Frattesi. Or sorry, I don't mind us selling Frattesi and then doing something like that, taking a decent gamble on a player who's like lost a little bit of market value or is on the way up and has some upside. But I don't want to see us selling Frattesi for 40 million and then first thing Oaktree saying, okay, you can reinvest 15 million out of this 40 million, and then from that 15 million going and spending it on like three fucking Palacios for 5 million each. That's like the last thing I want to see, because I don't think that helps us. I really don't think that contributes to where we need to be. I think that actually detracts from the squad, because realistically, Palacios is not getting minutes. He has made zero impact to the success of this squad, and the same goes for Martinez. So I don't want to see these moves anymore. And like I said, it's the unfortunate, unavoidable follow-up conversation to any discussion about incomings and outgoings that we need to have.
Yeah, and you've seen a change in media reports, and you don't know what to believe, but they've said that, hey, we're going to start spending more money on transfers in an attempt at finding like younger players who have lower wages. And you can argue that we have a wage problem at this club. We pay a lot of guys a lot of money. We have the second largest wage bill in the league. And there's an opportunity to lower that if you sign some younger players. You kind of take the Milan approach, where Milan signs these guys in the, you pointed out, 20 to $30 million range. They all tend to be on the younger side, and they make significantly less money than we pay our players. So if that's the model we want to move to gradually over time, it can work. Like, you can get good players that way. We just we need to get younger. Like, we need to start phasing out some of these guys like Mkhitaryan, Cherby. We need to be ready to move on from summer. And I'm afraid that we're going to hang on these guys past their expiration dates because of money, because of lack of ability to go out and to find someone else, not an ability to sign free transfers if Oak Tree puts an end to that policy. So it makes you a little nervous about the future for sure. But in terms of the here and now and the January Mercato, the answer is we're not going to do anything unless someone gives us a Frattesi offer that we can't say no to. And if someone comes in and makes an absurd offer for Frattesi, if someone offers 40 million for him, will that enable us to go out and just pick our replacement to say, okay, we want Ricci, we're going to get him? I don't really believe it, but that's the only condition under which you should be willing to sell Frattesi right now. If you get that cash offer, that's exactly what you're looking for. Otherwise, I'm expecting no moves this winter. As sad as that is. And we'll be on standby to see if we sign anybody on a free transfer. Cough, cough, Jonathan David, between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, no, I think that's right, Andrew. I think one of the biggest issues that a lot of us have, right, when we think about this club is just from a go forward basis, like what exactly is Oak Tree's project? And this is probably an entire episode or something that we could talk about ad nauseum. But look, the squad definitely needs to be refreshed. What that looks like, we've known what it looks like in previous years, right? It's like a mix of strategic kind of loans and players that are, some prospects like the Bellanova type signings, and then a bunch of like older free agent acquisitions that may or may not hit. So typically we know what that looks like. With Oak Tree, we just really don't know. I go back to like one of the points that Jay was making earlier on, which is, you watch Stankovic play starting for Venezia, and again, Venezia is not some powerhouse club or something that we should be trying to model. They're probably going to get relegated, but watching him be a starting goalkeeper for them or watching him get significant minutes for them, it helps you. Like, you can't help but think about the fact that why did we spend that much money on a backup goalkeeper that A, never plays, and B, we don't even know how good he necessarily is. He's also not some super young phenom, that's like an up and coming 19, 20-year old who's going to like light the world on fire. Like, he's kind
26
of
and a
a,
half. 26 and a
yeah,
half years old. He's played
yeah,
1 year of. He's the same as Stankovic in the fact that he's played the 1 year of first team football. Otherwise, he's played in Serie B and like second division his entire career. And we
yeah.
spent 15 million on this 26-year-old guy.
So again, like my concern isn't that, look, there's a place where buying someone in that 23 to 27-year-old range is a good move. I'm not sure if that was it, but I think the biggest thing is, you have a club that decided not to retain Bellanova and instead spent a bunch of money on Buchanan, who is probably not going to be retained on a go forward basis. Like, he's not a player that's probably in our future, and so my concern is just, I'm fine with changing the paradigm of investment into this club, like Oak Tree seems to be doing, but we don't have evidence yet that they're evaluating talent and making the right decisions for the club. At least they don't have a track record of it that we can rely on and be like, okay, let's trust the process. Let's give these guys some time to kind of maneuver and figure out what the club's going to look like. Because so far, I think it's a big TBD what their moves and what their paradigm shift is going to lead to in terms of our team. And Acerbi is like what barely played this year, right? And Mkhitaryan's injured right now. We can't rely on. Summer had a bad Supercopa game. Like, we can't rely on these guys year over year over year. I mean, even Darmian, who's been such a great servant for us, like, do you really want to see him playing significant minutes next year? I mean, I don't. So they got to figure something out, and whatever it looks like is fine. But right now, I think everyone has a right to be skeptical of what the results are going to be because we haven't seen it yet.
I think there's also a degree of like inescapable truism of you get what you pay for largely. And there was a time when we actually went out and bought kind of premium youths. Like look at Barella. He was 22 when he joined, same age asllani is now, right? And Barella was our most expensive transfer in history. And then we broke the record immediately afterwards with Lukaku. We paid 31 million euros for Bastoni. Obviously, there were player trades and stuff involved as well, but you get my point. Like, we were actually scouting these high quality youth that were expensive and then going out and making it happen. And now it's clear that the scouting guidelines have been loosened and widened to kind of accommodate for our inability to buy better youth. You know what I mean? Like Bastoni and in particular Barella, for example, were, and even Sensi at the time when we bought him was like 24 or something, right? Like these guys are youth, but youth who are like a lock for a bright future. The guys that we're buying now might have some potential, might have some talent, but naturally the market valuation for them just doesn't indicate that there is as much certainty around their future pathways. There's a reason Real Madrid spent 45 million on Vinicius when he was, or Endrick or whatever, when these guys were like 17. There's a reason they bought Odegaard when he was like 16, 17 as well. Like there are players who are of a certain quality where you can kind of be assured that as they develop, they're going to develop well. But when you widen your view just due to budget, then you're going to get a lot of misses as well. And I don't want to recap the whole debate, but for me personally, I think the Asllani gamble hasn't worked. The Bisek one looks like it's worked, but the Palacios gamble hasn't worked. And I just statistically speaking, I highly doubt any of these like Topalovic type gambles will work either. But this is all money that we're just kind of spreading out over lots of little weak gambles because of the inability to spend better money. As mentioned, we should be increasing that budget and be spending that more money on more proven youth. Again, how old is Pulisic when Milan signed him? How old is Reinders or Fofana? These guys are easily attainable should we actually have the intention. But if we're taking that 25 million and spending it on a bunch of different kind of Martinez and Palacios level players, then I don't think we're going to get anywhere. We have to luck out and hope that one of them becomes a Bisek, but even that's not a sustainable strategy.
I don't know what transfer success rates generally are. I don't know if you can quantify what makes a transfer good value versus bad value. But if you look at our past two Mercatos, I'm thinking winter last year and summer last year, we bought these lottery ticket type players of low cost basis.
Yes.
What are you going to get out of them? Bisek, Buchanan, Martinez to a lesser extent, he was a little more expensive. And you're kind of getting what you paid for, right? It's like you don't know what you're buying. And a 1 out of 5, 1 out of 4 conversion rate, that seems about right if you're spending $7 or $8 million on players. In fact, it honestly seems a little high. We're fortunate in that regard. So it's not sustainable moving forward. I'm hoping Oaktree recognizes that, or at least Morata recognizes that. You need to spend more money if you want to get good players. I'm not saying go out and even Nico Paz, okay, maybe he's too expensive because Real Madrid and Como want 35 million for him. I'm not advocating for that, but there's another tier of players that we need to play in that sandbox if we want to appropriately rejuvenate this squad. And then I'm just going to repeat myself. We need to see what Oaktree allows us to do from a free transfer standpoint, because there are going to be more and more players are figuring out that the way to get paid is to wind down their contract. And I never at any point in my Inter fandom have I seen more players on expiring contracts who you have heard of than we're going to see this summer. Like there are bigger and bigger names who are winding down their contracts and in pursuit of higher wages, not being dragged down by a transfer fee. So if Oaktree lets us sign 1 or 2 of these guys, that could be a boon for us. But once again, I don't know if the general strategy is to pay fewer wages and sign less of these guys, or what the plan is exactly. There's just so much unknown because they are an absent owner, right? Like they don't actually have any. We do not know what their directive is. We don't know what their goal is. They're just kind of there.
I mean, the evidence is not good though, right? And the evidence is the Hermoso deal. We've spoken about this before, but he was just such an obvious signing to make. 29 years old, only asking for 3 years as opposed to like some 5-year contract. 5 million in wages. Yes, definitely steep, but again, no transfer fee. I don't recall hearing about any gargantuan agent fee either. So 5 million in wages, 29 years old, highly experienced player playing for one of Europe's elite teams. In fact, the team that knocked us out of Europe last year, of course. You know, a winning player, and Oak Tree vetoed that move, and we saw at the time our alternative options just being whittled down. You know, we started off with Cabal for like 20 million or something that got vetoed, and then we were after Nathan Zizi that got vetoed, and there was some other youth and that got vetoed, and then you know the value of these guys just went from like 21 million to 16 million to 15 million to 10 million, and then ultimately you ended up with fucking Palacios for 7 million. That to me speaks volumes. And to be completely fair, I don't know if Oak Tree will have will learn from the experience and give Marotta a bit more trust, especially if we win the title. But based on the evidence alone, like I don't know, I'm not exactly optimistic about the financial freedom that we'll have. And yeah, obviously, Bernhard gave some great information when he was on the show previously about our balance sheet and I guess our operating loss and how we've reduced the loss and bringing us back to like a kind of zero position. A net zero position is like imperative for us, but at the same time, we've proven that operating at a small loss is not the end of the world either. And so I do think there's flexibility or room to be flexible there, and I just hope they utilize it because, yeah, as you said, you get what you pay for, and with a lot of aging players who are needing to be replaced, and we got kind of lucky with the likes of a Cherby, Mkhitaryan, because these guys were, as you said, Andrew, intended to be stopgaps and brought in for quite cheap, but Damian too, and to their immense credit, they earned it. They kind of elevated themselves and played out of their skin for years and years, and so they really had this kind of swan song, kind of end of career renaissance, and rolled the years back and all that kind of stuff. But again, even that is not a viable strategy either. Just buying 35-year-olds and hope that they give one last miraculous send off and play like their 27-year-old selves, for a season. That's not really sustainable either. So having a healthy mix, I think, is important. But if Oak Tree keeps denying us the opportunity to sign more proven players because they're like 29 or something, or because they're adding to the wage bill, then I think we're in for a bit of trouble because like we can pay wages and yeah, our wage bill is high, but if we're not spending any money on transfers and we're operating at a low level of loss, then what's the problem?
The only thing I want to add is that someone had shared this Twitter account, Football Meets Data, and it pointed out that Inter have the oldest squad in the Champions League, weighted by number of minutes played by players so far this season, and we are the only club in the competition with a weighted age over 30. So when we talk about the immediate need or the pending immediate need for some rejuvenation, I mean, this is the oldest squad competing in the Champions League this season in Europe. Like it's an older team, and I think it's clear that the end is near for some of these guys, which is why we're hypothesizing about what the future is going to look like. The other thing I'll point out is that, one more thing is that Buchanan apparently asked to leave on loan, and we told him no. We're only interested in outright sales, so that's something worth watching.
On the oldest age squad point, somewhere Mikko is saying, "Who cares?" Or it's a good thing. we need more minutes for Mkhitaryan, and man, if we only had Dzeko instead of all these youths, then we probably could get even better results.
We are already missing Mkhitaryan now. He lost one game, and we are in trouble.
Is he back soon?
I think he will miss Bologna, but there was no muscle injury, but I think he misses it anyway. So we are in trouble.
We're 1-0 without Mkhitaryan. We've never lost a match without Mkhitaryan before. Proof is in the pudding.
Good point. I want to quickly comment before moving from this transfer talk or squad building talk, that I think the important thing is the total cost of a player. How much does it cost for a club in a balance sheet for 1 year? And this, well, Palacios is like super cheap. Martinez, the goalie, he's pretty cheap. He doesn't have a lot of salaries. The transfer fee, yeah, it was over 10 million, like 13 and a half, but split over 5 years, it isn't that much. So the point is that yes, we need to increase that level of investment to the transfer fee. I agree that we need to get better players. That's the fact here. But how we get to this point is that, and Jay mentioned or like touched this topic a bit, that we managed to get to this point since we've invested so much to these like our core players. They cost a lot of money on an annual basis, but then we have these like older free agents. They don't cost that much, and we've been, or they've extended their like period of being useful with Inter, and that has helped us quite a bit throughout the years now. But I agree that now is the point indeed that we need to, the investments need to come in, because these older guys, they are really like at the end at this point. Acerbi definitely is going to leave. I don't know about Mkhitaryan and Darmian. It's possible both leave as well with the release clause thing. But yeah, we need to step up with the investments, and I hope that there is some room when the revenues go up, that Oaktree allows us to, or the management, to allow the management to do something on the transfer market, because we need to do better there. But I think the, like specifically Buchanan and Palacios, that they were like and Bissek, they were the like on the lower end in the transfer fee, low salaries. So they are like pretty cheap ones. A lot of lottery tickets. I wouldn't say Palacios is like a failed transfer. Buchanan might be, but I think that's mostly on the missed preseason. The injury, he missed like what, 5 or 4 months of the year last year, and including the preseason, he hasn't had a single preseason with Inzaghi yet. So it's kind of unfortunate for him. And I said this after that injury, that his career at Inter will be over, and I feel that he will leave next summer, if not this window. But for Palacios, I think it's wide open still. He hasn't been here too much. He arrived at the, like right at the end of the deadline, so season had started, no preseason. Like we need to give him a bit more time here.
Yeah, I agree with that. The problem is, like, why is he here? Just because it's damaging to take a 21-year-old and throw away a season of their career with no game time. Like, this is not a good strategy. Like, he should be on loan somewhere, and I'm hoping we can find him a loan for the rest of the season where we can get this guy some minutes. Or this is why we need the next gen team to go into Serie C and then eventually be promoted to Serie B if possible. Like, these guys need to be playing football, and just throwing away a season of Palacios' career for him to sit on the bench and learn some Italian is not a good use of anyone's time.
Yeah, I agree that he should play more, and maybe alone here would do good for him.
All right, let's talk quickly about the upcoming match against Bologna on Wednesday. These guys have been a problem for us, or they were a problem for us under Mata. We had that stretch where we dropped points to them in 3 consecutive games. We kind of got that monkey off our back last year when we finally beat them in our Scudetto winning campaign. But there was a tricky side with Mata, and when you looked at Bologna, this was an obvious candidate for a team who was going to fall off a cliff, right? They lose their manager, they lose Calafiori and Xerxes, and you thought the bottom was going to fall out of them. And that's bared that's come to fruition in the Champions League, where they're possibly the worst team in the competition. But in Serie A, they've been plucky. Like they're higher than Milan in the table. Like they've been competitive, and they just took points from Roma. I think they beat Fiorentina a few weeks ago. So they've done a great job transitioning the squad out of the Mata era and hanging tight and producing a good team. I think this is now the only. I think this is like the only team we haven't played yet in the league calendar because of the fixture congestion and rescheduling and all that. Aside from the abandoned Fiorentina match, so this is our last debut of seeing a team for the first time. Miko, what are your thoughts on Bologna?
Yeah, I thought that Italiano will fail this season, but now looking at the table, like you said, it feels that he's done actually better than Motta last season because he's right there. I don't know about the points. Maybe he's a bit behind Motta's point at this point, but they played like 6 games in the Champions League on top. So I think it's pretty impressive by Italiano, given that I haven't always appreciated his football, especially in Fiorentina. It was quite kind of like I don't know. It was kind of idealistic without too much concern on the defense, and well, they've conceded quite some this season as well, but they've still managed to get good amount of points now, and yeah, I'm a bit scared because of how I think our team is a bit tired and we have injuries, so that's why I'm at least mildly scared about this match because we also miss Mkhitaryan.
No, I will say, when Thuram came on yesterday, he looked tired. I don't think he made the impact I was expecting. Understandable, because he was just returning from injury, but it was notable that he was not fully ready, I think. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the squad's looking like in terms of availability. I gotta say, I was a little bit disappointed in Zielinski yesterday. I just wanted more from him. I felt there was too much kind of faffing about. There was a couple opportunities where he should have just taken the shot, but instead he was like just kept dribbling. I always hate when that happens. One of my pet peeves. But regardless, you got to stick with these players, and part of kind of launching players, and I still don't think Zielinski's been properly launched yet as such, is to give them a extended run, and whether that's 2 games or 10 games, like Bisek, for example, you got to give them consistency. So I don't want to see players rushed back from injury. Like hypothetically, I could have lived without Thuram coming on yesterday, but to that end, I'd like to see Zielinski get another start. Maybe Frattesi can get more time. If Hakan is not ready, then don't rush him back. Give Asllani another start. I don't think any of these guys have played consecutive games, so that's not right. Give them the time and let the chips fall where they may. Whatever consequences come from it, we have to suffer through. But yeah, look, the biggest thing I'm hoping for is some more leadership on the pitch from Lautaro. I don't mean leadership in terms of like clapping and leading the boys in that sense. I mean actually making an impact. So that makes a huge difference. Having a striker that's on and dangerous and scoring is a big way to kind of alleviate the pressure on the backup players. So if Lautaro can kind of be more impactful, then I think that'll solve a lot of our problems against Bologna. But otherwise, it's going to be potentially more of the same against, or that it was against Venezia. That is to say, some backup players, maybe some less than ideal football. But as Inzaghi said after the Super Coppa, we've now got 6 games in 18 days or something. So gauntlet started. Let's get through it the best we can. 2-1 Bologna.
Perfect. On brand. Irfan, any thoughts out of the match?
Yeah, I'm interested to see some of their young players, Castro especially. I'm intrigued to see how he plays. I haven't seen too much of him yet, but he's been having a good year, and he seems like the kind of player that we would be targeting on a go-forward basis when some of our aging and useless forwards kind of fall off. So I'm excited to see him. And Bologna, like you guys summed up, they've been surprisingly good this year in the league. And and they always have these like players that are like pesky that give us a lot of trouble, like this Endoy, who at times last year gave us just as much trouble or similar amounts of trouble as Xerxes, who thankfully is not there anymore. So it'll be an interesting match. I worry about our fatigue levels as well, but honestly, it's the sort of match where I feel like Inzaghi can motivate the team to play up to its standard and not try to play down to the competition. So I expect a good result, but it'll be a tough match, probably one of the tougher matches we've had in Serie A in a while.
Yeah, at least it's played in San Siro, so that's the positive note for us. But yeah, I watch a bit Bologna play, and they play they have quite a like dangerous counters or Solini running there like a madman, and Doi. He's a skilled guy, and then Fabian, our kid Giovanni Fabian. Actually, he's not our kid anymore, but
He's fallen
we
off
could
a little
buy.
bit, hasn't he?
Yeah,
Compared
he
to
has
last season?
fallen off. He's lost his place to Jens Odegaard, who's actually our former youth guy. We sold him to Sassuolo in the Sensi deal, and now he's back in Italy. And he's actually quite a big guy, and played pretty well. Scored, I think, few goals, maybe two goals, and yeah, he's a big guy and pretty okay player. It's interesting to see how he's gonna how he's gonna play in San Siro. But yeah, I don't know. It's a dangerous match, but I'm hopeful that we can find a win, like maybe two few scrappy goals. Kind of we need kind of goals so that we don't have to work too much to get them. If you understand what I mean, that sometimes it feels that we need to like attack a lot and make a lot of effort to get the goals, and like against Venezia, we didn't play spectacular attacking football, but we need more that kind of goals what Darmian scored, like some long ball, and then someone that does something, and then the ball is in the back of the net, something like that, some set pieces or something. We need to try to get the win in these kind of matches with a minimum effort, because
not with that amount of taking set pieces.
Yeah.
Was anyone else surprised he takes set pieces over Zelensky? Like, I thought Zelensky
how dare he? Who the fuck does he think he is?
You score one accidental goal and you get total green light authority.
I know, right? Seriously. Zielinski, proven dead ball specialist, a renowned technician. And you got asllani blasting free kicks into the wall and then blasting the rebound into the fucking Venice canals,
See,
like, I've actually seen the stadium. Like, it's literally on the water. Like, that ball, I'm not kidding when I said that ball ended in the water.
I've been to that stadium.
Yeah, it's on the water, right?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, so like, I'm not kidding when I said that ball went in the water.
The ball is still there, but with Zielinski,
by gondola.
But with Zielinski, like what Jay mentioned, like
probably hit a fucking couple on their honeymoon.
Yeah, but Zielinski, maybe they don't give him the set pieces because he isn't shooting. Like the game, what happens? Nothing happens if there's a set piece, and when he has the ball on the edge of the box, he isn't shooting like ever. He's always start to dribble and
yeah. He'll probably just try to dribble instead of taking the free kick. He'll just start dribbling to himself.
Yeah, so maybe.
Why was he lining up with his left foot? This guy is right-footed. That's what that confused me. He thinks it's Perisic or something.
Maybe that's why asllani is taking the free kicks as well.
Doing a fucking Hernandez.
All right, well, let's get some predictions out here. We've gone far too long. Irfan, what's your take?
I'm going to go 2-1 Inter win. Goals from Lautaro and Thuram.
Mikko?
Yeah, I have to also pick 2-1. It's gonna be hard, but we will prevail. Lautaro, yeah, he will score a goal now. He's back now, and the second one goes to Well, Zielinski. Let's give it to Zielinski. He's going to he will stop our suffering until we score in the like concede at the end, and it will become suffering there.
Oddly
Jay?
pessimistic take.
Yes. I'm scared a bit about the schedule.
That doesn't bode well. What did I say before? 2-1?
For Bologna.
Like, look, let's have a look at our upcoming schedule. We've got, obviously, Bologna on Wednesday, followed by Empoli a few days later. Then we travel to the Czech Republic for... Is that country still called the Czech Republic, or is it Czechoslovakia?
Yes,
Czechia.
Czech Republic. Czechia, actually. So,
Czechia,
yeah, true.
okay.
What I'm hearing is budgeted draw.
I'm just saying, like, we've got a lot of games in quick succession, and do you think we're going to win all of them? I mean, if we take out the the Champions League match against Sparta, then
we need to win them all. We need to win these all matches.
We should win them all. I mean, they're Empoli and Lecce before the derby, so let's be positive for once. I'm going to go big 3-0 win. Goals from Arnautovic against his former side.
You think Arnautovic?
Serious prediction. I'll say 3-0. I mean that. I feel like they're just going to have a bit of a slip up, and we'll have it easier than it should be. I have a random feeling, so I'll give it to 1 goal to Arnautovic, 1 goal to thuram, and 1 goal to DiMarco.
Do you think that Arnautovic will start the match?
I don't necessarily think he'll start, but I think he'll score like a tap-in at the end and then immediately look down and look sad as he always does.
Are we going to start the best guys in this match?
I assume so, but it's not like Lautaro scoring, is he?
Then we rotate against Empoli and then we play the best guys against Sparta.
I imagine we'll put out a bench squad against Sparta as well, such as the Inzaghi's Champions League selection seems to indicate. So,
but that's a must-win. If anything, that's a must-win game. But yeah, maybe that's further in the future. So
yeah,
we see about that later.
I just realized we have a midweek match against Bologna in an effort to make up a previously missed match. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah,
I am predicting a summer stomach flu where he's replaced by Martinez. Martinez comes in cold off the bench and delivers a ball-playing assist to Taremi to give us a 1-0 Inter victory.
Wow.
First redemption.
I like
that
it.
arc will be complete. A circle has no beginning. All right. I need a Jay's hot betting tip since we're probably not going to record before then. We have the Juve Milan derby this weekend. I need a Jay's hot betting tip.
3-0 for Milan. I think Motta takes his first L here, at least in the league. I think Milan have proven themselves better than Juventus. And I think the unfortunate mishap against Cagliari was only delaying the inevitable resurgence of this Milan as they skyrocket up the table and overtake Bologna after we beat Bologna, and they overtake Lazio and all these other shit sides ahead of them.
All right, well, give me
stunned silence.
Quite an achievement.
We'll win over Milan tomorrow.
So what was that?
I said Como will play Milan tomorrow. Give me a 1-0 Como win.
I'll take it.
All right. I know our friends got to get out of here, so let's wrap up. Mikko, take us away.
Forza Inter and see you, well, next week, I guess.
Catch
All right, see you then.
All right, I'll see ya.